Blackwood Manor loomed above the village, a monolith of grey stone against the stormy sky. Its windows were dark eyes, staring out at the world with an ancient and unsettling gaze. The wind howled through the crumbling eaves, like a chorus of tormented souls. Locals spoke of Blackwood Manor in hushed tones, their voices thick with fear and superstition. It was a place of whispers and shadows, where the past clung to the present with a suffocating grip. For generations, tales of tragedy and despair had seeped from the manor's walls, staining the very ground upon which it stood. It was said that the manor was cursed, haunted by the restless spirits of those who had met their untimely end within its walls. Few dared to approach the imposing iron gates, and even fewer dared to venture inside. Those who did seldom spoke of their experiences, their silence speaking volumes about the horrors they had witnessed. The air itself seemed to crackle with an unseen energy as one approached the manor, a palpable sense of dread settling upon the heart like a shroud. The scent of decay hung heavy in the air, mingled with the faintest hint of lavender, a ghostly perfume that spoke of a bygone era. Blackwood Manor stood as a testament to the darkness that can lie hidden beneath a veneer of beauty, a stark reminder that some secrets are best left undisturbed. Yet, despite the chilling tales and the palpable horror of despair, Blackwood Manor held a strange allure, a siren song that called to the curious and the courageous alike. It was a place of both terror and fascination, where the veil between the living and the dead seemed perilously thin. And it was into this world of shadows and secrets that Isabella Hawthorne, a young woman with a thirst for knowledge and a heart untouched by fear, would soon venture. Isabella was no stranger to skepticism. She approached the supernatural with a scientist's mind, seeking logical explanations for the unexplainable. But there was something about Blackwood Manor that called to her, a deep-seated intuition that whispered of truths yet to be uncovered. Armed with her wit, her courage, and her unwavering belief in the power of logic, Isabella set out to confront the darkness that clung to Blackwood Manor, determined to separate fact from fiction and to uncover the truth behind the legends. The journey to Blackwood Manor was long and arduous, but Isabella's resolve never wavered. With each passing mile, the anticipation grew within her, a mixture of excitement and trepidation that quickened her pulse and made her breath catch in her throat. As she finally stood before the imposing iron gates of the manor, the setting sun casting long, eerie shadows across the overgrown lawns, she felt a shiver run down her spine. This was no ordinary house. This was a place where the veil between the living and the dead seemed gossamer thin, where the echoes of the past whispered on the wind. Isabella Hawthorne. Taking a deep breath, I pushed open the gates and stepped onto the grounds of Blackwood Manor, my heart pounding with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. I had taken the first step into the unknown, and I knew that my life would never be the same. The old caretaker, a stooped figure with haunted eyes, showed Isabella to her room. Dust lay thick upon the furniture and cobwebs clung to the heavy velvet curtains. The air was stale and cold, as if the room had been locked away for centuries. As Isabella unpacked her bags, a sense of unease settled upon her. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched, that unseen eyes followed her every move. Nightfall brought a new wave of unease. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows in their frames and sending shivers down Isabella's spine. Shadows danced in the flickering candlelight, taking on menacing shapes that seemed to writhe and twist before her eyes. As she lay in bed listening to the creaking of the old house, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was not alone. A soft whisper seemed to emanate from the corner of the room, a sibilant murmur that sent chills down her spine. Her heart pounded in her chest as she strained to hear, her senses on high alert. The whisper came again, closer this time, and Isabella could have sworn she felt a cold breeze brush against her cheek. Holding her breath, she slowly turned her head towards the source of the sound, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and anticipation, but there was nothing there. The corner was empty, shrouded in shadows that seemed to deepen and shift before her very eyes. Shaking off the feeling of unease, Isabella told herself it was just the wind playing tricks on her nerves, yet as she lay back down, she couldn't help but feel that something was amiss, that the whispers she had heard were more than just her imagination running wild. The darkness of Blackwood Manor held secrets, she was sure of it, and she was determined to uncover them. Section 4, Eleanor's Diary, Secrets Revealed.
The next morning I awoke with a start, the strange occurrences of the previous night still fresh in my mind. Determined to find a logical explanation for the eerie whispers and unsettling feeling of being watched, I began to explore the manor. The old caretaker, his face etched with a lifetime of sorrow, warned me against disturbing the past, but I was undeterred. I believed that the truth lay hidden within the manor's walls, waiting to be uncovered.
It was in a dusty attic room, its furniture draped in white sheets, that Isabella stumbled upon a treasure trove of forgotten memories. A small, leather-bound diary, its pages brittle with age. The name Eleanor Blackwood was inscribed on the cover in elegant flowing script. As Isabella carefully opened the diary, the musty scent of old paper filled her nostrils, transporting her back in time to a bygone era.
Eleanor's diary was filled with a mixture of hope and despair. A young woman's heart laid bare on the page. She wrote of her love for a young man named William, a forbidden romance that crossed social boundaries. She wrote of her family's disapproval, of their attempts to keep them apart, and she wrote of a dark secret, a curse that had plagued the Blackwood family for generations.
As Isabella delved deeper into Eleanor's words, she began to piece together the tragic story of Blackwood Manor. Eleanor and William's love had been thwarted by her jealous brother Charles, who had accused William of treachery and had him imprisoned. Eleanor, heartbroken and desperate, had made a deal with a dark force to save her beloved, but the price of her bargain had been her life. She had died under mysterious circumstances, her spirit forever bound to the manor. Section 5. The Apparition, a Ghostly Visitation.
That night, as a storm raged outside, I sat by the fireplace in the old library, Eleanor's diary clutched in my hands. The wind howled like a banshee, and rain lashed against the windows, creating a symphony of sound that sent shivers down my spine. As I read Eleanor's final heartbreaking entries, I felt a cold spot form in the air around me, and the hairs on the back of my neck stood on end.
Slowly, Isabella raised her eyes from the page, her gaze drawn to the reflection in the dusty, gilded mirror above the fireplace. At first, she saw only her own reflection, illuminated by the flickering firelight. But then, a second figure began to materialize in the glass, a translucent form that seemed to shimmer and waver like heat haze. It was the figure of a young woman, her face pale and drawn, her eyes filled with an eternity of sadness.
Help me, break the curse!
As quickly as it had appeared, the apparition vanished, leaving Isabella staring at her own reflection in the now empty mirror. Her heart pounded in her chest, and her breath caught in her throat. She had never believed in ghosts, dismissing them as figments of overactive imaginations. But the apparition she had just witnessed had been all too real, its despair palpable, its plea for help echoing in the silence that followed its departure. Section 6. The Blackwood Curse, a Tale of Tragedy. Driven by a newfound sense of purpose, Isabella spent the following days poring over local historical records, determined to uncover the truth behind Eleanor's story and the curse that plagued Blackwood Manor. She discovered that Eleanor was not the first Blackwood to die tragically within the manor's walls. Over the centuries, a string of untimely deaths had befallen the Blackwood family, each one more bizarre and unsettling than the last. There were whispers of madness, of accidents that seemed more like murder, and of a darkness that clung to the Blackwood name like a shroud. It seemed that Eleanor's deal with the dark force had not been an isolated incident, but rather the latest chapter in a long and tragic saga. The Blackwoods, it seemed, had been marked by fate, their lives intertwined with a malevolent force that reveled in their suffering. Isabella learned of a hidden chamber beneath the manor, a place where the Blackwoods had once practiced dark arts, seeking forbidden knowledge and dabbling in powers beyond their control. It was in this chamber, according to local legend, that the curse had originated, a pact made with a malevolent entity in exchange for wealth and power. But the price of this pact had been steep, paid for in blood and suffering, passed down through generations like a poisoned inheritance. The more Isabella learned, the more determined she became to break the curse that held Blackwood Manor and its spectral inhabitants captive. She realized that Eleanor's spirit, and perhaps the spirits of other Blackwoods, were trapped in a cycle of pain and despair, unable to find peace until the curse was lifted. Isabella felt a profound sense of responsibility for these tortured souls, and she vowed to do everything in her power to help them find release.